name is Kimberly Anderson Much, and I'm the Director of Content here at Go Fish Digital. This is Smarter Marketing in 10. We're going to talk about performance creative, specifically with our President of Social Commerce, Ethan, and our VP of Performance, Greg. So let's jump right in. So creative is now the main lever in paid social, especially on TikTok. But what gets designed and what performs doesn't always match. I think a lot of people are feeling this right now. Greg, what do you think's changed most about how you approach creative over the past year?
For me, it would be volume, 100%. We are able to do so much more than we were able to. The demand is also higher, so there's absolutely a need. But being able to say, hey, we're going to make, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times as many ads means we can test in a way that we've never been able to and get data back in a way that would have been harder before, because those smaller changes that we never quite get to can go out a bit faster.
Okay, so essentially you're able to get to the data more quickly that will let you know what will perform.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the idea being that like the data that you get back is coming back a little bit quicker and you can adapt to it quicker. So instead of making iterative jumps or generational jumps, you're just sort of evolving as you go.
Yeah. Ethan, how do you see this impacting performance for creative or ads?
Yeah, I think like Greg said, you're able to get such greater volume, right? That you're able to cycle things in and out, double down on the winners and reinvent those in new ways. So I think like we're testing more concepts at a more foundational level, and then we're reiterating more on the winners. We're also using a lot of affiliates to hit that volume. So, I think that's something that TikTok Shop has really pioneered, but being able to get the product in the hands of creators, send them signals, tell them what people love about the product, showcase reviews, give them the things that maybe customers are objecting to and have them riff on that allows you to kind of have this team of, marketing arms that are testing new concepts for you, and then be able to see organically which ones perform and then work those back into a paid strategy.
Makes sense. So Greg, you talked about this a little bit, but when you're designing for performance, what are you doing differently now?
So I think, we touched on a little bit in terms of testing, which is just like you don't have to make so many assumptions, right? You can put more things out there. You can kind of say, hey, we have several good ideas. We're going to put them all out and see what responds, what we get back. And then to Ethan's point about doubling down on winners, like as you start to see things coming back and saying, hey, this is doing better, we have a better idea of like what it is, is not, hey, this wildly different creative than another perform better. It's this one with this image or this copy or this cut in the video, right? Like, and so now you can say, these are the things that maybe are more successful. Let's iterate on that. Let's make some more things like that, send them out, repeat the cycle.
Mm-hmm. Ethan, based on your experience, what are you seeing that's either missing in traditional creative now, or performing well since things have shifted?
Yeah, definitely more lo-fi production is performing extremely well. Compared to I think traditional creative, like we're finding things that are one shot can outperform things that have a lot more production value inherently worked in. So it's definitely something we're leaning into, especially when you're testing more overarching concepts. And then, obviously you have an angle that's working. Think testing it at 80-90% of what you think it could be ultimately for speed and variation, and then seeing how it performs. And then I would say like doing more post-production on top of that is definitely something we're leaning into.
Yeah, that brings me to another question specifically for you, Ethan. So, are you seeing that creative that feels more like it's social media content performing better? Are people more used to engaging with that type of content? Are they more attracted to it?
Yeah.
Those ads that are, like you mentioned, like not high production, just very kind of simple, um, even affiliate or creator reviews, things like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's two parts to this. One is it feels more native to users as they're
Yeah.
scrolling their feed, so they don't instantly skip over it, knowing that's an ad, right? And I think the second part is, the platforms are rewarding this as well because they want engaging content that feels native to the experience while still maximizing the ad dollars that they can make. And so I think it hits both of those buckets, which is, why it is performing so well.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, Greg, in the past, where does performance creative usually fall apart before it launches? I think you've got a lot of experience with this, right?
Where it falls apart before it launches. Um, I would say that the biggest thing would be if, yeah, probably that not enough testing, like not enough kind of plan to like iterate on what you're doing. Because if you get stuff out there and you don't have a way to measure it, you don't have a way to adapt on it, you're shooting in the dark every time you're putting a new ad out there, even with something that's successful, doubly so if it's not working, you're just sort of
Mm-hmm.
shooting in the dark and waiting a long time. Um, the other big bottleneck is the amount of creative available. Like if you have to wait for custom shoots or if like you have existing assets and you just have to keep stretching and stretching them, everyone gets tired of seeing them and they tune out, and that's a huge problem. And then I think the third is just sort of the imagination component. Like if you can't do what you imagine and test it, you're hitting some major roadblocks. You're trying to essentially fit like a square peg in a round hole, trying to tell someone why you're talking to them instead of being able to show them, hey, I belong here, engage with this piece of content.
Mm-hmm. Ethan, kind of the same question for you about what you're seeing that underperforms.
Yeah, usually if it's underperforming, I mean, the first 3 seconds are the key place that you want to look. And then within that, you want to look for, the visual hook, right? Is there a background that's a little bit more eye-catching? The actual verbal hook, right? What is the person who's creating the content saying in the first 3 seconds? And then the text on screen as well. All three of those really factor into, are people going to continue to watch, right, after those first 3 seconds? And that's really the barometer for how it's going to perform because if people are scrolling before they even hear, 80% of the content, then you're giving yourself no shot at the conversion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. Greg, can you show us an example?
Yes, I have some shorter examples here. This one's more toward the first part, what I was talking about in terms of iteration and being able to hone in on specific things that are working. So this is for a client, they do flooring, and you can kind of see that we've broken out a lot of versions, which before would have been very difficult to do. And you can see that some of them, like if we scroll through, have video components. They might be a little choppy, sharing over screen share. But the idea here being that we can look at the different types of flooring in essentially the same room, same layout, right? And we can also test different, you know, text on the screen, product showcase, what have you.
Mm,
So if we see something is working, whether it's, static video, different floor type, different text, whatever, we can get to the bottom of it a lot quicker now because we're looking at all these versions. When you think about the idea of like organizing a shoot and changing the floor and getting it all set up, it wouldn't be practical before, but it's something that we
mm-hmm.
can do now.
Right. Yeah. Amazing. Um, so if teams want to implement something like this, um, quickly, what's something they could change within the next week, if possible? Or if
That's
they
a tough
wanted to
one.
solve for the if they wanted to solve for this problem of testing creative.
I would say that, for us, one of the biggest things, and it's a double-edged sword, right? Because like one of the things that we're leaning so heavily into is AI creative, but without the systems in place to support it, you're sort of saving yourself time on one end and then adding so much on the other. And so that's where we put equally energy into both, so that we say, hey, here's 100 something ads, so like we can have them all named, we can keep track them, we can have data on them, like all of that stuff, we can change them based on feedback and the next generation. So it's sort of you have to look at both. I think you're looking at how do you fill out your creative volume and then how do you manage
Mm,
it at the same time. And if you do that separately, I think you're just going to sort of collapse pretty quickly.
okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And then Ethan, same question for you from a performance perspective.
Yeah, so I think that, if I had a week to get good creative back very, very fast, probably the number one thing I would do is I would pull who my top customers are. I would send them an email and I would say, hey, can we jump on a 10-minute Zoom? And I want to hear just what you love about the product, right? I think I've seen ads like this where the founders call the top customers and just sort of thank them. And it's, it's nice and all that stuff. But I think when you get the customer actually speaking about the product and saying what they love, it can be exponentially more effective. So
Mm,
that's one strategy I'd really encourage. I also think, it's very easy when you're running a brand, depending on your scale, right? There's a million things flying across at once. And so just locking in on what that biggest lever that you can really hone in on is going to be, and that's typically going to be your content. So I would definitely say prioritizing that. You can ship things quickly, but I really like that idea of getting your customers to talk about the product and share
yeah,
what they love.
very smart. All right. That's it, guys. That's
Awesome.
all
Well,
I
thank you
Very
needed.
so
cool.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great,
Thank
great.
you.